by the time before my mom had her stroke because it made life so easy.
This is Planning for the Future with our guest, Martha Patterson. To get a free copy of Martha's book, call 855-ELDER-77. That's 855-353-3777.
What are the different types of trusts?
So I usually tell people there are, three basic different kinds of trusts. So there's your traditional living trust that avoids probate, and when we had an estate tax issue from middle class people, it avoided estate taxes, and we still have those provisions. Estate taxes now, the exemptions are so huge. It's like 11.3 million some odd dollars. We're not really worried about estate taxes. There are other taxes that a living trust avoids that are important to every family. Like we keep the Prop 13 and Prop 53 exemption, so your kids keep your house, they can keep the taxes that go with that, the lower property taxes. So those are for living trusts. And then there's an asset protection trust that I use for my Medi-Cal planning. Other states call it Medicaid. I call it Medi-Cal, that protect your assets and enable you, if you need them, to get the public benefits that pay for your long-term care, your skilled nursing homes, help with veterans benefits. So the asset protection trust are designed for that. It does some limited protection for lawsuits and that kind of thing, but it's really used primarily for the public benefits in our state. So there's the asset protection trust, and then there's a special needs trust that is designed for a person who has a special need, developmentally disabled adult who is getting public benefits so they can get an inheritance and not lose those benefits. And I use a similar trust for a family member who has what I call special challenges to protect their inheritance, so that they don't lose all their money. And, typically if you get $100,000, you're going to lose it in a year. So we can protect their money by having them have somebody who manages the money. A trustee is a money manager, and so we can even set that up for somebody with addiction issues, or just, they can't keep 2 nickels in their pocket to save their soul. They're wonderful people. They're just not good with money. And so whatever that challenge is, we can help with those. I call them special challenges. And we use a trust similar to the special needs trust for that person as well. So those are the kind of trusts that we have available. I mean, there's more complicated trusts, but most people aren't going to need that because they're not that super wealthy. But even $100,000 can be damaging to somebody who has addiction issues. So, they may need to have that, more protective trust, similar to my developmentally disabled adult who needs a special, or other special needs person who needs a special needs trust. And usually those people know who they are. When I'm talking to general public, I use developmentally disabled adult because that helps them kind of get an idea of who might be a special needs person. But that's typically anybody who's on public benefits.
Okay. Now, are those what's considered an irrevocable trust?
They are irrevocable. So my asset protection trust and my special needs trust are irrevocable. They have to be so that you can get the benefits. But being irrevocable does not mean that we don't have any flexibility and that we can't change anything. So even in an irrevocable trust, we can have ways to change the trustee if we need to. We even have, a power, I call it a power of disappointment. It's really called legally a power of appointment, where you could disinherit somebody if they were not treating you well. That's to protect you. And we have, so there's some changes that can be made in their irrevocable trust. Typically, they're not changed any more than a revocable trust. Typically we keep the same trustees. We have, our kids are our beneficiaries, and we don't change anything. The irrevocably is for taxes and for asset protection. So there's some restriction. The main restriction is if you have an asset protection trust, you don't have full access to your own assets. So I always explain to people, this is what your restriction is going to be, and how much asset protection you need. You may not have much rights to it, but your trustee will have ways to get you money if you need it. I have ways of getting around this, around the rules. We use the rules wisely.
You're speaking like an attorney.
Well, that's what, the job of an attorney, somebody explained to me once, is to turn off the laws we don't like and turn on the ones we do. So basically, our job is to do what our client needs. So we want to make the law work for our client. Use the rules that help them and make the rules that don't help them go away.
That's awesome.
They write a new law, and the first thing we're going, I don't like that law. How do I get around that law? What's the exception? I mean, that's what we look at. That's how lawyers think. There's an ongoing joke about how lawyers and engineers don't get along, because engineers, like my son, they're working hard to obey all the rules because you don't want your cars to fall apart or your airplanes to fall out of the sky. You like engineers who are very precise and they love rules. Attorneys, we like rules, and we're going, how can I break the rule? How can I get around the rule? If I, do something different, is that going to work? That's how our brains work. And, that's what that's how we're trained. And I don't do it. Everything I do is both legal and moral. And I have a very high personal standard of morality. But if there's a rule that says you can do something, you should take advantage of it.
Oh yeah, and that's all part of it.
Advantage of.
Yeah, that's all part of it. Is you as an attorney, you use the laws to your advantage. You find a way to take whatever law they've made and use it to your advantage, not your disadvantage.
Correct. I mean, there's laws, and in California we have very liberal laws to get people qualified for certain programs on that account. There's no reason not to use, take advantage of them. They know they know what we're doing. They know that we're taking advantage. They could change the law if they wanted to. They haven't. So I'm going to keep taking advantage of it as long as I can. I'm also going to make sure that people understand, that we have a holistic view, that we're not putting somebody on, Medi-Cal and putting them in a nursing home that, may not be what they really want. That we look at every option for you. We use every resource. So resources in my office include public benefits, include your family. They include your kids. They include, maybe renting out a house so you can be in an assisted living or a nicer place. We look at every resource, both public and private. And so my clients, I want them to get the best care we can with the resources that we can, make available to them.
Right. So when someone needs to get started, and that's the hardest part of planning, is actually getting started. So when someone decides they actually want to get started with their estate planning, what's the process like?
So I try and make the process as easy and painless as possible. So I have, right now I'm doing them by phone. I have what I'm calling my family protection strategy session. And I do it in the family because, I want your whole family to be involved in helping you, because most of my clients are elderly. They're planning, they're looking for that day when they're going to need, their kids' help. So we get their family involved. We have the meeting. There's no charge for that. I get your personal data, everybody's names and address. I have a little workbook for that. I don't require everybody fill that out in advance. I love it when they do, because it makes our time much more productive and we get a lot more done. So I encourage it. But we sit and talk and we say, where are you? What is your situation? What do you want? Are you, just wanting to do traditional living trust? Great. Do you want to, are we looking at a diagnosis of some kind of dementia? Do we want to start planning for that? Let's start planning for it. Do we want asset protection? What do we want? Where are you at? And then we plan. I quote a fee. Everything I do is flat fee. Everything I do, I'm calling it now my concierge service, because I couldn't come up with a better title, is all my clients, I walk alongside them after they're done. They don't walk out of my office with these nice notebooks and all the pretty things and read them and go, now what do they mean? What do I do? I'm there now to still make sure that they get everything put in their wagon. that they can ask, they're a year later, they're reading that trust and they're going, I don't remember what she told me that said. If that is a irrevocable trust, what does that mean? My clients forget. They're not lawyers. They don't remember. So afterwards, I'm still available, and that's included in my flat fee. So I walk my clients through, we're together for the journey. Whatever we need. If we did that irrevocable trust, now we have, a disaster happen to your family and we need to do a lot of, massive changes. How can we do that? There are ways to get to undo an irrevocable trust. Only had to do it once because family members were killed tragically before the elderly parent. We got through that. I'm there to walk you through, the standard questions you're going to have. I really hold my clients' hands.
And, that's a great point that you bring up is people sometimes are apprehensive because they think once they start, there is no adjusting, no changing. But, it's not the same. Planning today is not the same as when, our parents were planning for the first time. Or our parents' planning for the first time. That was like buying car insurance. Now, when you're making plans and putting plans together for your future and your estate, as you change and times change, you can make adjustments, right?
Right. Yeah, we can always make adjustments. And, I do a lot of reviews of people's older trusts. I'm encouraging everybody, if your trust is more than a few years old, or you're feeling like I want it reviewed, and that's also part of that strategy session. Come in, have me, look at it. If you're thinking it needs to be redone, you're probably right. You know more than you think you do. I really honor and appreciate that, people who aren't attorneys, you know a lot. You just may not know the right legal words or the right terminology or what you really need, but you know a lot. You need help, and that's why I spend. I don't even know how many hours I spend a month. Usually I'm spending, an average of 10 hours a week just, educating myself on the latest stupid case that came out of the court or stupid law that Congress or our local, people pass that affect your estate. And there's so many stupid things that happen that I need to know. You don't need to know them because I'll know them for you. And you'll tell me I have this problem and I'll make sure that we, that problem is covered in your trust. And then you're going to call me 3 years from now and say, that problem I told you about, it's now happening. Remember we covered that. Oh, I'm so glad. Oh, I did take care of that. Yes, you took care of that. Because I know what you need. And that's the advantage. That's why you need to work with a lawyer.
Right.
Because I know all the stupid what ifs. I know everything that can go wrong. That's all I do is study all the stupid things that go wrong. And those are called cases.
That's how it all works. And you wrote a book. It's called You're Not Alone, Living with Dementia.
Yes, I did write that book. And part of that is because I want people to really realize that the reality is if you have dementia, you need a plan. All my plans really, everybody comes to my office, whether you're 80 or in your, 20s and you're the kids of my clients. And we're talking about what happens if you don't die and you get dementia, you have a stroke. And people say, well, why would you talk to somebody who's 30? I said, well, I have a gal, I got to know her quite well. She was part of, she's at Bel Air Church. She had a stroke quite young. Her son was, I think, 3 or 4 years old when she had a massive stroke. It has affected her life greatly. So you can have a stroke that almost kills you at a very young age. So we need to plan no matter how old we are for that.
Right. And getting that planning in place is a huge peace of mind because, really, you can't plan for a stroke. You can't plan for a heart attack. You can't plan for dementia, Alzheimer's, any of that. But if you start and get some sort of planning in place, that is going to take a lot of stress off you personally, knowing you have that peace of mind just in case any of that does pop up.
yeah. So you have we have the legal side, the practical side.